Bring your bitch ass down to Carnival Cruise Lines, the trap house of the sea. Be sure to bring your EBT card so you can enjoy malt liquor and the finest loud this side of the unemployment line. And don't forget to bring those hands. We don't want you to catch a fade while you twerk your funky pussy all over the dance floor. Be as loud as fucking possible. Live your goddamn truth and catch some motherfucking hands while you wear your life vest at the splash pad. And don't forget about our chicken fingers. They're worth a whole ass beating, cuz. Enjoy all of our features and amenities while you indiscriminately beat the shit out of each other. And tipping? Fuck tipping. You is kings and queens and shit. How dare service workers ask you for gratuity in exchange for great service? God fuck. Safe sailing from all of your truest niggas over at Carnival Cruise Lines.
Oops. Oh, that was way worse than I remember it being. That was way. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. I am so sorry. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Volley Program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Lawgic. Hope your day's been going really well. I need to apologize first and foremost. That was way worse than I remember it being. Yeah, way worse. That was way worse. I didn't remember the very end of it. That was probably the worst part. Yeah, that was. Anyway, I hope you had a phenomenal day. If you came here expecting solely the topics that I listed in the title and description, I'm gonna have to let you know I have like 7 topics. I don't even list them, not in the title, not in the description. But they're big topics. So I'm just gonna give you a heads up on some of the topics that I plan on covering tonight that I didn't even mention in the title or description. What you see in the title and description, we are covering. Okay, that's on the agenda. I'm not leaving here, God willing, I'm not leaving here until we cover everything you see in the topic and description. In addition there, too, I anticipate that we're going to be talking about Trump saying he wants to bring in 600,000 Chinese students. First and foremost, I meant to put that in the description. I even thought I should have put that in the title. I don't know how it is I missed that, but it did get missed. But we are going to be covering that because I think that's an important thing to discuss. We're going to be talking about how it is that we're talking about Jack Smith and his being seemingly kind of worried about claims and investigations into his potential violations of the Hatch Act with the way he went after Donald Trump and how it is that would play out in theory, the most likely ways for something like that to play out, the logic as to why it is that his actions may be deemed violations potentially of the Hatch Act. Certainly, and what the ramifications of that may be. So that's what I've got. And in addition, I'm going to be covering with you a lot of. We have RFK and we have Trump going after the commercial driver's licenses and fighting DEI and using money to fight on both of those things, and I got Judge Dugan. I think is on the agenda. And perhaps most importantly, what I also have for you tonight, the part of the reason that I got so much here is because what I also have for you tonight is this guy right here. This guy who's muted, Jim tells you.
Jim booms it.
What's up? Is joining me tonight. What I like about having him here is he's going to basically be bringing us the stories. He's going to be doing it and getting my feedback on it. Many of these links I've seen, many I have not. So,
I got a lot of secret links that I didn't tell anybody about.
Yeah, I actually showed him that opening there. He's like, yeah, that's okay.
I told you to play the other one, but that's
okay. I wasn't playing the other one. That was too filthy. I would have had a wife who would have walked out on me.
Send that to me. I want that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Jim. Anyway, yeah. So let's get
going. All right. Let me get the first one pulled up here.
Started. You guys share. You're gonna share your screen with us.
Just hold on 1 second. Yeah. Let me do this. And then I gotta come over here. Do this. I'm gonna share this tab instead. Do this. So this is the first one right here.
All right.
You want me to break it? Like everyone remembers Hannah Dugan, the judge.
They don't remember. I mean, they
Okay.
might. Some may not. So
okay. Well, there's this Karen of a judge named Hannah Dugan. Her name really should have been Karen.
yeah.
And the other woman's name should have been Karen also, the other judge. Well, they came and they interrupted. ICE was there to arrest an illegal alien criminal who was attending criminal court. And so they were outside the court like they're supposed to do, waiting for him to come out. You know, they didn't interrupt the court. They were waiting for him to come out. And they saw someone said, hey, there's ICE people outside. She went and said, are you ICE people? And said, oh, you can't be here. Come with me to the chief judge's chambers. And they went there. And she left while they were waiting to see the chief judge and ran and got the guy and escorted him out the back and tried to sneak him out. And then they had to chase him down the street and arrest him. And
so it's like a lunatic. Yeah, the woman was a
Right.
lunatic judge, and she was getting prosecuted, right?
she is getting prosecuted. Oh, she is getting prosecuted. But she tried to get out of it in state court and, filed motions to get it dismissed saying she has state immunity and all this stuff. Then she went to federal court, tried to say she has immunity. And, well, the federal judge, basically, we're going to get into it. The basic rundown is the federal judge said, you're not immune from committing crimes, lady.
You remember when the left was like, hey, look, Trump v. USA says that there's immunity here. And I'm just like, dude, she's a freaking county judge. You're comparing her to the president of the United States. It's like, seriously, how sad a reach is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, backdoor. That's correct, Joe. Backdoor Dugan. That's that's the perfect nickname. Backdoor Dugan, because that's where she led them out her back door right there. And she's like, come through here, because that's what I need you to do for me right now. And they just went steaming on through there, and got tracked down anyway, right? They got caught anyway.
Oh yeah, they got caught. I'm trying to find. I swore I had. I'm just looking real quick. I swore I had one more link for this that I found after I did all the stuff.
So what do we got? What's happening with her now?
Okay, well, this is what happened. It says breaking news: a federal judge has just ruled. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan, who helped an illegal alien criminal evade ICE, does not have immunity and can be prosecuted.
Woohoo!
Judge Dugan now faces multiple charges, including a felony and 6 years in prison. Nobody is above the laws.
Oh, you see, the amazing thing about this is it'll scare the bejesus out of other judges from thinking about doing something like this.
Yeah, so this is basically showing what there was ICE agents, and you're going to
Yes,
show. I mean,
make
I
that
don't know if
big.
you want to watch.
Make it big. Yeah, let's make it.
To
Let's
confirm his identity amongst themselves. But a few moments later, Judge Dugan and another judge approached the agents sitting on the bench. A criminal complaint against Dugan later said she was alerted to their presence by a court official. That
She looked
complaint
like
says
such
during
a
this interaction, Dugan and the agents disagreed over the type of warrant they
She looks
had
like
to
she
arrest
plays football.
Flores Ruiz. According to the
tackle
complaint, Dugan
football.
ordered the agents to go to the chief judge's office. Video shows her pointing them through a double door. She then turns back to speak with other agents further down the hall and orders them through the doors as well.
Yeah, but she
Shortly
missed one.
after
There was
that,
one
the
that she didn't
agents
see.
gone from the hallway, Eduardo
Yeah.
Flores Ruiz and his attorney exit into the hallway through a different door. As they walk down the hall toward the elevators, they pass another plainclothes federal agent. Neither they nor Judge Dugan seem to have noticed at the time. That agent motions to another to follow Flores Ruiz. Security video shows Flores Ruiz exiting through a basement exit. Upstairs on the 6th floor, the other agents have left the chief judge's office and worked their way
great.
downstairs. Flores Ruiz left the building onto 9th Street. Videos of the street shows the agents catching up to him. Flores Ruiz runs across 10th Street while trying to get away, but the agents catch him and arrest him.
Nice. I love that video.
Oh, I didn't know.
That was great.
He meets his attorney in the hallway.
That was
Okay.
great.
Yeah, so then the Fox News story on it is pretty. Just says,
I think I've warned my audience about Fox. You get pop-ups left and right, but federal judge.
you want me to go to?
do
Different, well, I have another one. We go to ABC7 if you,
You
want.
can go where you got.
We go to ABC7. That's fine. But see, the media won't play on ABC7, so it doesn't matter. But,
do what you think. Do what you think is best.
Okay, we'll try Fox, and I'll see what happens. I'll try to get rid. You know what? Everyone's been telling me I need to go with the Brave browser.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
And I'm like, okay. So it just says a U.S. district judge on Tuesday rejected Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan's request to dismiss the allegations that she helped an undocumented immigrant evade federal authorities earlier this year. But see, I don't like the way they word it. See, like I would just say illegal alien, criminal, a criminal legal alien, because he was in criminal court. He's an illegal alien.
Mm.
We need to stop.
Innocent until proven guilty of being a criminal.
Well, according to that AG from Rhode Island, you got to read them her rights and have a judge before you could get prosecuted or something. Remember, that was the whole thing. She's like,
but I agree with you. Undocumented immigrant is insane. It's an illegal alien.
Because that basically just means all they need is some papers and they would be fine. They didn't break the law. They did break the law.
Right.
That's the thing that really aggravates me too, is just because Congress was seeing what happened prior to before they formed the immigration courts. It's not like it's an administrative court because they gave it to the justice. Basically, Congress said, no, the executive branch is going to set up these courts to handle this because the district courts are mucking everything up. They're taking forever. It's getting delayed. It's taking years to deport people. We want people out. You're not supposed to be here. Get out. They passed it. Went through bipartisan, real big support on both sides. Nope, this is what we're going to do. And now we have district court judges sticking their noses back in where they don't belong.
Yep. Specifically because they want to bog down the system.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly why they're doing it, is because they're trying to circumvent. It's really what we've been seeing is really the judiciary just getting too big for their britches in every way possible, both with respect to fighting the executive and the legislative branch. Because you're right, the whole point here is Congress was saying no. This is all it's not supposed to be going through the judicial system. This is something that's just supposed to be handled by the president and INS and let them, sort it out, and we'll let them handle everything here. They make it as if, he's entitled to his rights. Yeah. Because of due process demands under the Constitution. So they baked into it very, very thin due process to almost get past that hurdle where it's essentially, let's make sure we have the right people here and that they're not actually U.S. citizens. And then you can deport them if you want. The whole fight we've been seeing here is like, getting rid of criminals. This should not be simply about getting rid of criminals. This should be getting rid of everyone. I mean, this 20 million people came in here. I don't assume that the majority of them are criminals. I think there's far too many criminals among them.
Technically, Joe, and I make this argument all the time with people.
Being a legal alien is a criminal.
But anyone who's here illegally and working is committing other crimes. They're using fake documents. They're stealing documents. They're using bogus Social Security cards. They're not paying. They're committing massive other crimes.
Right. That's true. But my point
that
is
you or me would get. We'd go to jail for if we use someone else's Social Security card so we can get around paying taxes or something. We'd go to jail.
Right. Okay. And perhaps maybe the majority of them are doing that. I don't know if we're still hitting a majority there, but the point is, I don't care if it's a 7-year-old kid. It's not like, and I want that 7-year-old kid deported. I don't care. I don't care if it's a newborn. Deport them. They're not an American citizen. It's really that simple. It's a matter of part of my whole perspective about this illegal alien thing is the people who are standing up for this do not have sufficient appreciation for American privilege. These are the very same people who, are happy to burn the flag, people who think that, Independence Day is a day that they should be tearing their shirt in horror about, like,
it's worse than that. It's the people that don't believe America should exist. It thinks it's a colonist, whatever, imperialist place, and it should
and racist and rooted in racism and baked on imperialism and colonizing and destroying Native Americans and basically hate everything about America, while still insisting we bring everyone possible into America. And my perspective on this whole thing here is the flaw. The reason that they have all these positions is because they have zero appreciation for the fact that your American citizenship is a privilege that is more powerful than pretty privilege. It's more powerful than arguably than wealth privilege. And certainly the white privilege, black privilege, all that other stuff, which are made up crap. It's way more. It's way bigger than that. The only privilege that perhaps, in my opinion, comes close to being as powerful as American privilege is the two-parent privilege. Meaning, if you have two parents, you are starting with an advantage. Who are happily married in a happy environment. You are starting with a massive advantage in your life.
Statistical advantage. It doesn't necessarily mean that just because you got two parents, you're going to do better than every single parent. kid. But and people don't understand that. And you try to explain to them, no, what do you mean? I know this guy and he had a single mom. And look at, it's like, well, yeah, but
the fact that you need to come up with a story with an example like that is only proving the point, right?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what you say. That's what you say to that person. The fact that you need to come up with this one example of something only shows that, yeah, okay, fine. Anyone could beat the odds. That'll happen, but the odds are strong in your favor. So yeah, two-parent privilege is a massive privilege. American privilege, meaning being born here in this country, is a massive, massive advantage compared to being born in any other country on the planet, even other Western nations and things of that nature. But obviously the disparity is not as great between America and, let's say, Canada. But there is a disparity there. It's not nearly as wealthy a country. It's not nearly as influential. There's just a lot of privileges to being born American. And none of these people who are sitting here trying to tear down our borders or pretend that there should be no borders, have any appreciation for the magnitude of blessings that they have as a result of being born American. Of the access to so many things that people in the Far East, in South America, in Africa, the majority of humans on Earth, don't have the benefits that most people in Western Hemisphere and Western cultures have, and even those who are living in EU don't have. They have so much less freedoms, so many fewer freedoms than we have, that it's a joke. And these people have zero. So if you don't appreciate it, it's almost like, you don't appreciate something until it's gone, right? So a lot of people might have a rocky relationship with a relative, and then that relative drops dead, and they sort of realize, the impact that they were having on their lives. These people don't appreciate it because they're just born with this privilege and don't appreciate
the whole country went through that, Joe. We didn't appreciate Trump until we had 4 years of Biden, and then it was
exactly.
Like, oh no. Oh,
right.
No.
Yeah, that's a really good example. That's a really good example that you can't appreciate just how good things are on a day-to-day basis in 2018 until you see a Biden come along and you're just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And frankly, there could be someone the next Democrat could be worse. It really could be. Likely would be, considering how far off kilter the Democratic Party has become.
I was in a union, okay? I brushed elbows with a lot of Democrats and a lot of Democrat politicians. I never really talked politics with them because I've always been more conservative leaning. Because that's basically anybody you find. It's very rare you find people that served in the military that aren't conservative leaning. It's just the way it is. There are liberals, you will find leftists, but it's probably like 80-20 conservative in the military. That's what my experience was, and that's just people I know. You know what I mean? And people I've dealt with. But I'm worried about the future of this country because of the status and what's happening with the Democrat Party. I see a fracture. I see it can go a very bad way.
We need that party to die. That's what we need.
That would be great. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm worried that the crazy people are going to win over.
I know.
The Mandamis, the AOCs, the Bernies, the whatever, Keith Ellisons.
All
Crockett's.
they need, they all, frankly, we are one poorly timed disaster from that national disaster from that happening. Because the same way, the 2020 was just like a year-long natural disaster. We are 1 year-long natural disaster. Well, wrong year, meaning if it's in an election year. If it happens, most things that will happen in odd number year don't really matter that much. But we're just one bad, even-numbered year from facing that calamity.
But how different do you think things would have played out if that would have happened in 2021 after Trump was reelected?
Oh, I think he wins in a landslide.
You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, how do you think COVID would have been handled by Trump?
That's a really interesting theoretical question.
When he's not worried about being reelected, he's not worried about an election. Because a lot of the stuff I think he did in 2020 was he was worried about the election. He's like, okay, they're telling me to do this, I got to do this. I don't know. I'm just asking.
I agree. He realized that he's facing an election and that he's being judged based on how the death toll counts that are coming out every day. First and foremost, I think that there would have been a lot less of that they would have been critiquing him because that's
that went away right after the election. That whole death counter thing on CNN, and as soon as the election happened,
everywhere. Yeah, the whole death toll thing just all of a sudden didn't matter in December 2020 and onward. I think that he likely he looked as if he wasn't sure what was the best way to make COVID go away, because no matter when he was saying that it was not going to be that big a deal, everyone was people were looking at him as if he's not being realistic. When he started marching out Fauci and Dr. Birx, and they started saying that that calamity is about to ensue, and their crazy, confusing directions as to what Americans should do. So there was some sort of feeling of calm that was going on for a while during the summer of love. But I think he sort of felt like if he tried saying anything against them during that period of time, let's imagine it happened in the summer 2021 instead. I think he's in a very different position than if he's walking into election, and let's say he tries getting rid of Fauci, and people say Trump doesn't know anything about science. He wants to inject bleach. He's going to kill us all. And they were all going to die. So he has to worry about that in 2020. He would not really need to worry about that in 2021. I mean, look, it's an interesting question.
It might have been different too if the whole George Floyd thing didn't happen in summer 2020. Also, that was a whole nother can of worms that caused a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. But. Yeah, I definitely. Although the counter argument to say he would have done exactly the same is, even after the election, he seemed to regard Fauci with high esteem. It's only we didn't the bashing of Fauci was being done by a lot of people on the right, even in 2020, and especially with the whole eye medicine and how they were just rejecting that, and then when they started shoving various remedies and coercing us into various remedies, that's when the voices against Fauci really started ratcheting up, and the friction became much more palpable. But if you want to argue that he would have done things pretty much the same, even if it happened a year later, the best support for that argument would be that between the election and the end of his first term, he never turned against Fauci. If anything, he seemed to give him much greater support during that period than most of MAGA wanted to give him at that point. So
I think Trump, because of his business and because of his dealing with people, with engineers and people that, I don't want to use the word experts because people look down it, but people that they know their job and you trust them that they're going to do their job correctly, that he knows his limitations and knows what he knows. And if it's something that he doesn't know, he's going to look to somebody that should know, that has the right credentials to know it.
Which is what you would think a president should be doing, right? I mean, no human's going to know everything that they need to for all the different circumstances that arise. Let me get through some of these chats that.
And I fucking derailed this show. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you really did. You really did. What the hell was that?
I don't know. We were talking about Judge Dugan and now we're on COVID and the elections. And
the one thing I told him for the show is I want to get through this Dugan thing fast. Let's get through it fast, okay? Because we got a lot to cover tonight, and all of a sudden we're talking about. Julio Scissors hit me. I don't think anyone gets to hear.
No one heard that.
Yeah, no one hears the horn. Right, no one hears the horn. Right, because I got your screen up, not mine. So that's not going to work. But let me see if I can still catch who Julio brought us. Who'd you bring? Can I still see that? Can I still see it? Yeah, there it is. All right, following 5 people brought into the following courtesy of Julio Sisters. That would include Bear Ashby 4451, Cinnamon Squirrel, Endless 013, Arnold Newton 5072, and Jeff N4POD. Welcome aboard, you new awesome members of the following. Please bear in mind, in case you're confused about this, that I am the host. I am not I say, the leader of the following. This is something that people will lie to you. They will say to you, oh, Joe, he's a leader. No. Tell them, Joe told you he is most certainly not the leader of the following. Anyway, but welcome aboard. And it's not at all cult type of cult. Canada is, by the way, We might be getting merch soon. I have someone who's been working on shit. You want to see a picture of?
Yes,
I was
definitely.
like, I really like this a lot. I don't know if it's gonna happen because I was like, I've given up on ever actually being the one to get things done here. But
That's just great.
Look at this. Look at this. Where are we? Gotta remove this. Yeah, look at that. Can I make this bigger? What do you think? What do you think? Can you see it bigger?
Great. Yeah, I can see it. No Kool-Aid, no spaceships, no self-harm.
Yeah. I'm very excited. Anyway.
Although it should have the Adidas stripes on the arms.
The Adidas stripes? Why?
Yeah, for like the tracksuit.
Oh, no, that's just the T-shirt.
Oh, that's just a T-shirt. Okay. That's the... all right, never mind.
Yes.
Tracksuits are extra. Those come next year.
Send immigrants to the greatest country in the world for their safety. Yes. Send them to Uganda with the Maryland man. With the Maryland man. And Canada's NYPD hat on America, like your hat, not at all like that. The older I get, the more I'm grateful that my ancestors immigrated in the 1630s, then pushed westward. I only found this history in the last 10 years. Wow, look at you, Deb. You daughter of the American Revolution. Wow, 1630s. That's crazy. That's really crazy. That's like the third boat in here. All right, what do we got next? We're done with Dugan. We're done with
Dugan?
We're done with
all right, well, she lost immunity, so we're done with Dugan.
She lost. Oh, so wait. Yeah, wait. Actually, let's do that real fast. I'm adding it back to the stage.
All right.
Let's see. Dugan was arrested in April
after allegedly helping Eduardo Flores Ruiz avoid plainclothes immigration and customs enforcement ICE agents who were trying to serve a warrant on him. Her attorneys argued that she's entitled to judicial immunity for her official acts. They also said that the federal government overstepped its authority by arresting and charging her. She lost. They said no.
They said she ain't got no immunity.
She got no immunity. I mean, look at that face. She got no immunity.
Oh my gosh. There's something really, really wrong with the bone structure there or something. The globs of fat.
Oh God, you want to hold on, Joe. You want to see something else disgusting? Here. This is what she looks like.
I know. This is wow. Why did they always look like this?
I don't know.
This is why maybe you need to like fall to that level to like have such deep levels of self-loathing. All right. Anyway.
All right.
Anyway, she looks like a female George Soros practically.
So we'll jump on to the next story.
What do we got? Justin, President Trump says it's insulting. This one's going to get me mad. Okay, to say 600,000 Chinese students shouldn't come to America, and if we kick them out, our university system would go to hell. All right, we have a clip here on this.
Yeah, we have a clip.
Let's play the clip.
It's not long. It's only a
full screen. Yeah, there you go.
What is going on? Play. I want to play.
Play.
Look, we're getting along very well with China.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
And I'm getting along very well with President Xi. I think it's very insulting to say students can't come here because they'll go out and they'll start building schools and they'll be able to survive it. But I like that their students come here. I like that other countries' students come here. And you know what would happen if they didn't? Our college system would go to hell very quickly. You'd have, and it wouldn't be the top colleges.
No, it
be
wouldn't.
Colleges that struggle on the bottom. And you take out 300,000 or 600,000 students out of the system. I like having, and I told this to President Xi, that we're honored to have their students here. Now, with that, we check and we're careful and we see who's there. And Marco wants that. We're in the same position. But we have a tremendous college system, the best in the world, nobody even close. That's why China sends them here. And you can call it an industry if you want, but you're talking about millions of people. And I'm honored to have the students from China come here. And we're just getting along very well with China. And
Yeah.
We're getting along really well with China.
Oh God.
I'm not happy about it, but then we'll jump.
Yeah.
We got this. We got Doge AI going to give their take on it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Before we get to Doge AI, I'm going to give you my take on this. Okay. I love President Trump. I don't know what the hell he's thinking here.
Well, there's several stories about it. It's being reported in a bunch of newspapers. MAGA's not happy with this.
I have no idea what the hell he is thinking here. This is insanity to me. I don't know. It feels so wrong. This is not the same type of betrayal that a couple of other things that have happened in the first 6 months felt like. But it feels like our whole objective here is we're trying to be America first. He wants to pretend that this is helping American colleges or lower level colleges survive, as if like what they don't have students without it.
The reason he's saying that is because they charge an exorbitant amount of money for foreigners. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I could swear that they charge like, if in-state gets a low tuition, and then other out-of-state but Americans get another tuition rate, and then foreigners pay like 30% over what anyone else pays.
Yeah, that doesn't. Okay,
and so he thinks if it's a business, like it's going to put the schools are a business, and they're not going to make money. We got to let them make money. That's the only thing I can think. But let them make money, make it plenty of money.
That's insane. It's really, really insane. It doesn't. That's not a justification. That's not a justification, because at the end of the day, okay, first and foremost, our college system sucks. The idea that we have like some sort of world-class college system, higher education learning system here in this country sounds laughable.
How could our college system be so great when our primary school system is garbage?
Yeah. How is that possible? And also, I'll ask you this. I mean, we have. Every college today has some dean of wokeness, dean of diversity. Tell me how it is that today's college system that we have here in this country is like considered the finest in the world. I would think that Sweden, Switzerland, Uganda might have a better higher education. I don't understand anything about this. Everything about this everything Trump was saying there was bothering me. I don't care if our schools close down. So some of them closed down. Okay, that's part of capitalism. If you're telling me the same way I didn't like bailouts when the banks risked and they gambled and they lost, and we said, "Oh my gosh, what happens if the banking industry goes under? What happens if the car industry goes under? What are we going to do then?" You know what? We're gonna find someone that's going to come along and do it better. That's what's going to happen. And in the interim, there might be a little suffering financially. And it'll suck. But, bad turns come with good turns. That's okay. There are going to be bad times in the markets. There'll be times when we might hit a financial dip. That's not the government's job to fix. They're not supposed to be sitting there trying to smooth over the rough patches of an economy which goes up and down. American taxpayer doesn't gain when the economy is doing well. Why should we lose them when we're bailing out people? And this is another form of a bailout, according to, if you believe
it's a bailout for the schools. If what he's saying is true, it's a bailout for the schools because they'll go bankrupt if they do this.
He's like, well, we need to help out the schools. No, we don't. No. It's not your job to help out the schools.
My major problem with what happened in 2008 with that bailout of all the banks was, why did the banks get to keep the properties then?
Everything about it was screwed up. Yeah, so we're going to
bring you paid the loans off, but then you let the banks they doubled up.
And all this is 600,000 Chinese? 600,000 Chinese? As if and we really need them here. You know what? If those spots are taken by Americans, I mean, okay, obviously they probably wouldn't be the same tier student, because you're presumably getting the best from China, so you wouldn't have the same tier student. But I'm saying those opportunities to learn, you would think, assuming that we do have a good education system, which I seriously doubt. I know what I learned as an undergrad back when our college system was much stronger than it is today, and I'll tell you right now, very little of it was actually practical for developing yourself into some sort of professional. Very little of it was helpful. Very little of it was actually something that I used today or used even for 20 minutes after I got my degree to help further along, other than being able to put it on my CV that I graduated with honors from Baruch University, and that way wave in front of a potential employer and say, hey, I'm so smart. Aren't I so smart? I have value. I offer you value. But that whatever value I was offering them is not as far as what's helping them with their particular industry. Even though I was a finance major and I had backgrounds in accounting, understood about marketing, and I'm trying to go into some sort of business area. This is before law school, before I was thinking of going to law school. Yeah, so I had that to offer, but nothing I learned there is of actual benefit to an employer. Nothing, everything anything I learned there could have been relearned by some other new hire who didn't have a business degree. It wasn't a business degree. It was a business major, a finance major. And I'll say this, our business schools, they are supposedly really good. Our medical schools, I assume, are really good. Our law schools, they were pretty good when I was there. I'll assume that even though some of the scary things I've seen about Yale and how they acted when they had a visiting professor who they thought was too right-leaning, was a terrifying reflection of our current law schools are. But my point is, I believe it's possible that when it comes to graduate schools, perhaps what he's saying is true, that relative to the rest of the world, we are uniquely strong. And that's where people can learn things, less so in law school, more so in medical school. It depends on the nature of the profession, where higher education can be something that's very valuable to a potential employer. My point is, why do we need to give this to people who are not Americans? Why is that like a goal that this is something we should be doing?
I saw something somewhere too that some schools like Harvard and like some of these really prestigious schools, like 30 to 40% of the students are actually foreigners.
Yes.
Like, I mean, they're basically taking the foreigners over anyone else. So you have your, what is it? what do they call them? The ones where you got family and it's a legacy. So they have like legacy students, those come in, and then it's foreigners, and then that's it. And then there's some, and that's all that comes in.
Yeah. To make it like almost impossible for anyone who doesn't have a family member. And if you're, some straight white male who was not legacy, your chances of getting into any of these, universities are so slim. I mean, they're so slim, and he wants to fill up these 600,000 spots with just Chinese. Forget about the Japanese and the Taiwan and Europeans
and the Indians. There's a billion Indians in India. They all want to come here too and go to school.
And from the Middle East, we have the Arab League is fueling in millions of dollars a year to these higher.
Yeah, doesn't Qatar spend like $billion a year on universities?
Yeah, and I'm sure these schools are taking a whole bunch of students for that as well. So you tell me what's left over for actual Americans. It's the stupidest thing in the world. Now, I've been preaching against our college system for a very long time, and I expect to be doing that for as long as I have a show, because I think our college system and the whole way that we train our students, our youth, to start off as toddlers and turn them into adults is so completely screwed up, it's beyond question. But to the extent that is the current system, that you're going to be telling some kid, this is how you're going to survive, this is how you're going to try and fulfill the American dream, and now you're basically saying that American dream is going to Bandak Shek from Beijing, is asinine. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it wouldn't matter if the Chinese national was actually named Brad Johnson. I don't care. He's not American. He's not American. That's all that matters to me. If he is American, and if the Chinese person is Brad Johnson and the American is Bang Dak Shek, I say give us Bang Dak Shek. I want to look out for Americans, and I don't care their skin color, I don't care their race, I don't care what it is. We are a melting pot. These schools have already spent so many decades basically with this ridiculously stupid, asinine lie of, we need to bring in people from everywhere for culture, for multicultural type of to enrich the student body by being able to access these multicultural other fellow students. What hogwash, utter crap. Nobody's like, I know so much more about Taiwan now because I have my friend Bang Din who is from Taiwan. Now I really understand. You don't understand Taiwan. You understand that one guy. That's all you understand. It's not anything. It's not anything enriching the student body. It's the stupidest thing in the world.
I don't understand when this. I mean, I know when I was in school, and me and you were like close to the same age. When we were in middle, whatever you want to call middle school, high school. They told us you have to go to college. You have to go to college. You're not gonna if you don't go to college, you're not gonna succeed. You're not gonna succeed.
That was our generation.
And which was a lie. It was the biggest lie in the world.
Total lie. Although, frankly, to be fair, I don't think they were lying to us intentionally. I think they thought that was the case because they didn't understand how much the world would change after we got out of college. You know what I'm saying? No one could have predicted how the internet would change our economies and how technological advancements would basically make so much of what we were learning as young obsolete. So in that sense, I think that they were looking at what it was like in the 60s, right? And telling us based on their experiences, this is what you need to do. I am mature enough to say that, hey, it's no longer the case. When I grew up, this is what Jim is telling you is 100% accurate. Everyone believed that if you wanted to succeed and get ahead, you had to go to college. And that was the only formula that would work. And now that formula is poison. It's so poisonous because you're saddling yourself with so much tremendous debt, learning nothing beneficial. So instead of earning money or developing yourself as a person or in your skills and your abilities in ways that are actually marketable, you are sitting learning this theoretical, largely crap, useless to an employer, and burning a hole in your future by having this crippling education debt hanging over your head, far more crippling than Jim or I ever faced.
Yeah.
So
now, there's a lot of people saying it's not a lie in the chat stuff. I want to explain what I mean by it's a lie. There are a ton of jobs that you can get that are careers, that are good jobs, good paying jobs with benefits, and that you will make more money than anybody coming out of college. That's not okay. If you come out of college as maybe a lawyer, if you get a really good job, but most lawyers coming out of college make what, 120, maybe 110 grand a year starting out if they're lucky.
Yeah,
and doctors and stuff. You're going
lawyers today, in a big firm, I think they probably starting like at 180, 200. I mean, when I was coming out, it was 100. It was like 90 to 100.
I'm saying, but the vast majority, if you're not coming out as a lawyer, a doctor, or some kind of engineer, if you're coming out, you're starting out making 60, 70 grand a year at some white, if you're some kind of a business major or something, you're working at starting out at the bottom. I knew people that worked in the trade, in board of trade stuff, and that were college educated people that were working for big, financial institutions, that I made more money than them, and they were shocked.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, whatever. And they're like, you don't, and they would say, just what you did, the money you make, I wish I could make that money.
I mean, you're not a good example. You were selling drugs on the side, but I mean,
Joe, you're not supposed to say that to people.
So it's part of your past. People accept your past. And look, I'm not gonna say you can't succeed going to college. You can. I'm just saying the notion that it's the end all and be all is ridiculous. And to the extent that college is a viable economic path, the idea that we're giving it to Chinese, 600,000 Chinese are going to commit something like that to President Xi is just asinine. Especially you have that clip from Lips of TikTok about like what China does with their foreign visa students, or I can pull it up.
I can get it. There was some other
I
things.
have it. I have
if you have it, you want to pull it up, go ahead.
Yeah, I can pull it up here. Because when I saw this, I was just like,
I mean, I do have, it's basically there's a Katie Pavlich tweet and talking about this research student that was arrested for espionage, but it's the same kind of thing as what you were talking about. But if you want to pull that clip up, go ahead.
I'll bring it up here.
Yeah. But no, I mean, but
I got it playing now.
Shock no one. So the report came out. It said right now in the United States of America, at one of our universities, there is an organized, orchestrated spy ring. To put this in perspective, when I got here, I said, when I was told that there was a Chinese law in place that required Chinese nationals, including students that come to the United States on visas, and by the way, we take 300,000 Chinese students a year into our universities. There's a law in the books that says they have to provide intelligence gathering and information to the CCP. We also had information in Congress before I even
So understand what she's saying. Under Chinese law, when they approve these students to come here via visa, they have to agree that when they come back, they're going to report to the Chinese government.
got here that they were setting up these programs to organize
Well,
spies.
actually, it's not even when they go back. They're supposed to go to like the chief of station, like the councils or whatever they have in every major city. The Chinese has like not an embassy, consulate type of thing. They're supposed to go there every quarter and tell them, like report in.
It's unbelievable.
Them into our universities using visas. And when I got here and realized that there was no law stopping the visa program, even though we had that information, I immediately launched a bill that would end visas for Chinese students. Now, nothing against Chinese students that want to learn, but if you have a government,
and I do have a problem with Chinese students that want to learn because they're taking up spots of Americans,
that is enlisting them, and not just enlisting them, requiring them by law under penalty to be espionage agents when they get here, we cannot keep inviting them into our nation. And so time after time over the last few years, we have found Chinese students with drones, cameras on our military bases, stealing information at our universities, and nothing has been done. So when this report came out 2 days ago, I was not surprised.
Do you know why nothing's been done, Joe?
This bill, and we've been advocating and trying to get someone's attention that there were spy rings here right now. Now, hopefully, we will see some action, not only by the university that's been informed of this, where there's students saying it's happening, but by the government to do an investigation.
Yeah, the government do investigation.
Well, that's the problem is the government, because the government is getting paid. The people in the government. You've got Mitch McConnell's wife, who served in the first Bush administration, Cho, I believe her name is, Elaine Chao or Elaine Cho. Her father is a member of the CCP. Yeah, they got a huge business of shipping business in China that they get, preferential treatment because of Mitch McConnell. Hey, what do you know? The turtle, he's corrupt and crooked. And then you got Bill, Joe Biden had all the business dealings with China, and they know about it, and the money was coming in, and all these people, they're all dealing. The senator from Arizona is in business with the company that was flying the balloons, Mark Kelly, the weather balloons. He's in business. He's in that business with them. They're all in it for themselves. They don't care what happens when they're gone. They just want to get theirs now.
That's what it's always about. It's always about that. It's so aggravating. It's so aggravating.
Definitely. So I don't know if you want to go ahead.
Kimmy Hunt saying if foreign students pay 30% more in tuition than in-state and out-of-state students, colleges will pick the foreign student every time because of the money. Yeah. Why shouldn't they? And now he wants to have 600,000 visas. 600,000 visas. Like where does this? It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable.
I think the only thing actually limiting the number of foreign students going to the colleges is the visas.
Yeah.
If it was up to the colleges, they would have every student would probably be a foreign student because they get the most money.
That's exactly what Kimmy was saying. Yeah. Like why, you're bribing these colleges to take foreigners. If you imagine you're dean of admissions and you're worried about your bottom line, who would you rather take? You rather take the foreigner? You rather take who's going to be paying more, or some kid here? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why? The same way you would want to sell your goods to the highest bidder, from the college's perspective, that's capitalism right there.
Yeah, I understand it. I just think at some point though, you have to have some kind of loyalty to this country.
You would hope.
If you're an American.
You would think. And that's what the good thing about MAGA screaming is, that sometimes Trump actually listens to MAGA when we scream, and he reacts.
Look back at the history of this country. You had huge people that made tons of money that people called, barons, robber barons. But when it came time when the country needed them, they would make sure that they stepped up. Like Henry Ford, all his foibles and his bullshit. When it came time, he made sure every plant was working for the, war.
For the war. Yeah. Well, Henry Ford is particularly noteworthy. He's particularly noteworthy. But
I said foibles. I should have said something else.
Yes, like
Deranged lunatic beliefs.
yes. China has Trump by the rare earth short hairs. Well,
not for long.
That's pretty scary. That's pretty scary.
I like Trump's making moves. What he did in the Congo, where he's trying to push. He's going to push him out of the Congo and start mining there. He did the peace deal, and so part of that peace deal was we're gonna send troops to protect the mines, and we're gonna be mining it. I guess I don't know. I don't know how I feel about stuff like that. Really,
I'm unfamiliar with that particular.
There was an ongoing war between
Congo and Rwanda.
Yeah, for 30 years, and so Trump
he negotiated
came in.
a deal there.
The negotiated deal. Part of the deal was we get the mines.
Oh wow!
From China.
Wow, that's
right. That has to because we're going to send troops there, and so we'll basically, I don't know, and I think that's the same type of deal they were offering Ukraine. Give us. It's kind of in a way seems dirty. Kind of seems like we're basically taking the shit.
See, I'm actually, in a certain way, the capitalist to me does look at that as like, all right, so we're basically mercenaries, right?
Basically, yeah.
That's what we're doing, and especially if in this
holy moly, dude,
what
50 memberships from Brian.
Oh wow, thank you, Brian. God bless you. I'll give it. Yeah, I got the right one up there. Yeah, okay, there we go. That's for you, Brian. I'll come to that in a minute. But I'm actually okay with the idea of America being mercenaries in a cold war setting. We're not sending our troops to die, but that Trump negotiates a deal, and that part of that deal is that we're going to have the opportunity to extract minerals, whether it's Ukraine or Congo. At the end of the day, that's capitalism, and that's helping America. So if they're not sitting there in some hot conflict fighting a war, so you would think that they're all relatively safe. It's a matter of whether they're on a base in Germany or in Congo. I don't really have a problem with that. I don't really have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's okay.
And I think that's part of what the deal that he was trying to make with Putin too was get Putin to open up some of their because right now Russia doesn't allow any foreign companies to go in and mine or do anything on Russian soil. So that was part of that deal was open it up to us. Let us get in on it, on your stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I said should have happened before a single member of the Red Army crossed into Ukraine, was that Biden had a unique opportunity to turn Putin into a friend. Not a friend that let's trust him, but a sufficient ally that we're willing to do business with him, and not someone who we continually have to poke in the eye all the time, but that will actually sort of help get him what his needs are, and at the same time take from him and let Ukraine take from him, and for brokering the deal that America could get a piece of the action also. That was such a great opportunity before this war started that I think, and it was and I was like, you can approach this as an imperialist, or you can approach this as a capitalist. And if you approach it as a capitalist, no one dies. No one dies. Everyone makes money, maybe in varying amounts than what they're hoping for and expecting to, but it's much, much cleaner. And capitalism works. It works because Putin is about the money. If everyone's saying he's evil, dictator, he's not without reason. And if there's a sufficient benefit to him, he'll go along with it. And I think it's pretty stupid. There's no indicators to the contrary, at least as far as I'm aware of. So yeah, I think that Trump is probably trying to use that to bridge the gap that's currently existing between Ukraine and Russia. China's we got that. So let's pull this up here. God bless you again, Brian. 50 good Lawgic memberships following 50 people. You have to go through this as fast as I can. Following 50 people have been brought into the following.
I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back.
Courtesy, that's a good call. Courtesy of Brian Oldenkamp. Please bear in mind that the following is not at all a cult. Type of cult is just a gathering of like-minded individuals for the purposes of trying to better themselves. Self-improvement through community, unity, learning, and thinking. It's not at all a cult type of cult. There's no throwing virgins into volcanoes. There's no mandatory tracksuits, no Kool-Aid, no spaceships, no squirrel mutilations. It's not at all a cult type of cult. And when you hear your name, I would be most obliged. And it's a new member of the following, or as a brought back into the fold or enhanced member of the following. If you express your gratitude towards Brian Oldenkamp for his very generous gift here, I think that's an appropriate way of showing that you recognize the valuable gift that he's just given you. And that would include Gino WY19, Mistress Meg, Ank1 Ank, Sylvia 7111, No Jabski, Scott 6089, Go Shane, Another Mom, Ethan Calvin, Laughing Eyes, Lynn H 1960, Yan So, 1T Rasmussen, I'm not sure. Rud1 RN 928, Lori Cuck 2317, Mr. Balloon Hands, Susan Winscheitel 707. I know I got that wrong. Winscheitel. There you go. Jason Lazat, American Philosophy, Mitri Barrett, Carpathian 91, Sylvius, not Sylvius. Oh, wait, I missed that. I think I got Sylvius earlier. I'm not sure. It jumped on me, which I knew it was going to do. Who else do we have here? Carpathian, we got Gene Spratt 1235, Christina Smith 198, Warrior Biatch. Nice. ATN News S. And Andrea Domini, Seize the Day, Rob Nobert. That's what it is. Rob Nobert, Cheesesteak Jimmy, Devin McLevy 3059, Pablo Aki, Silicon Player 3184, Dreamscope DJ, Jeff 9876, K4G. Come on down, Jeff. David Cherry, David Nola, Queen of the South, Governor Dog, Goose Tools, Mr. Gia 130, a Dum Dum 85, Jordan 73, W4Q, Beers and BS, Wayward Lone, Kevin Murphy 6057, Red Alert 47. Red Alert's been here for a while. I see Red Alert a lot. Barry Kuda for a long time. Red Alert's been here. Barry Kuda, non-player character 9653. That's a great name. Brett W. and S. Thuckleberry Abel. I think that's everyone. Welcome to the following. And again, God bless you. Thank you so much, Brian Oldenkamp. You're awesome. Woo! That was a nice little surprise. All right. So let's move along.
There's still some more stuff to talk about this. There's still some more
with the 600,000 students.
With the 600,000. Yeah, there's still a few things.
What do we got? What do you have for me?
Right here. I'm gonna pull it up real quick. So
American Students First Act of 2025 caps foreign student enrollment at 10% unless waived for national security. Trump's stance balances economic pragmatism with strategic oversight. Foreign students fund universities but mustn't displace American opportunities. Yeah, foreign student enrollment capped at 10%. Who's enforcing that? Who? I want to know. Who? I don't buy it. I don't accept it. I missed a couple of rants here.
Oh.
So let me catch up. Let me catch up on that. So Zelen says, off top, Joe, my solo fantasy team is screwed. All my wide receivers are questionable because of injuries. Also, there's a fantasy hockey game and local starting next month. I don't do fantasy hockey. I don't know enough about it. Joe, it's okay. Robots will take over the jobs and AI will take over the programming. Also from Zelen. No programming jobs in the next 8 years or so. That's cynical. Hands 1 PK says solution to head tax colleges for each foreign student difference between domestic tuition and foreign tuition. Okay. And also we have to break China Belt and roads. So yes, we need to have influence for resources or we just isolate and let China take it all. Well, I think that I'm fine. I'm fine with going on into Congo. I said, and I think that's capitalistic approach. Bringing Chinese people in here seems to me to be stupid, especially if they're actually required to report to Xi. Commerce Secretary Lutnick's bottom 15% argument misses the point. If the schools rely on CCP-linked students, they deserve scrutiny. MTG's outrage highlights grassroots concerns, but Trump's 600,000 figure aligns with S2111's waiver clause for U.S. interests. That's very scary. That means they're going to ignore the 10% cap in order to cram more of these Chinese students in. The real issue, ensuring universities prioritize domestic talent while leveraging foreign capital without compromising security. Who wrote that? That was Katie.
That was Doge AI. Oh. So yeah, and so Katie Pavlet says, yeah, let's take in 600,000 of these people. No thanks. Because then you got this right here. So Chinese University of Texas research student, Yuan Hai Li, charged for espionage, theft of trade secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, this is who's coming in, you know.
I mean, he's one example. I think
but I saw there was examples. I mean, I could pull up more examples. There was the researchers that were bringing in the stuff into they're like Joe.
Okay, the point
we are experiencing a severe blight in Florida. All the citrus crops were destroyed by some weird blight that came from China that destroyed all our citrus crops. We found that they were bringing in other stuff that they caught them with, trying to wipe out wheat. China is attacking us.
That's a bigger deal. That's a bigger deal.
You know, yeah, 90% of the Florida's orange crop is destroyed.
That's much bigger.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
You know, and the same they try to do with the wheat. They're messing around with the other stuff. They were, what else? The weird, you know, they're doing all.
Frankly,
I
think they're owed retribution because of what happened with COVID.
Yeah.
Although we should be seeking retribution from Fauci too, but yeah, it's very this whole thing. Yeah, take to social media and scream at Trump. Feel free to do that because when there's enough blowback, they look at the numbers. I'm sure it's obvious they closely monitor the feedback, and if the feedback is largely negative, it's not just the influencers talking about, but the retweets and all the other stuff there is very important to basically alert the government's eyes on social media, which every president in the last 15 years has had, and every president going forward shall have. That they have eyes on what's happening in social media. I'm telling you now, take social media. He's shown that he changes his stance. Look what happened with here. I'll give you an example. Great example here. Okay, when we saw what happened with Epstein, right? The reaction that MAGA had to Epstein made them start changing everything as far as like, you know, what they were saying and further looking at it. And it has an impact. So that's why I think we're still not where we want to be on Epstein, not by a mile. No. But you can see that from the reaction from the White House that it gets Trump's attention.
Yeah, well, that's why I was pulling up some of these. These are like MAGA people that are saying stuff, so that's why I wanted to pull it up. Like this, you know, Sean Davis saying our universe.
Yeah, we don't need 600,000 communist spies making them worse. Yeah, he's right.
You know, and then you got like Luke Radowski, which I think you've met him, right, on Timcast.
I did, not on Timcast. I met him on someone's channel. I don't remember whose. I think it might have been. No, I'm forgetting, but.
And he said your university system would go to hell.
Needs to go to hell. Needs to go to hell. Yeah.
He followed it up with this. You know, I don't believe this, but it's true. They should go out of business. Commerce Secretary Lutnick, Epstein's neighbor. So he's trying it to Epstein. You know, Lutnick was Epstein's neighbor. If you didn't have those 600,000 students, the bottom 15% of colleges would go out of business. So I don't know if you want to hear this from Lutnick.
Let's hear from it because I think that this is crap. And I'm gonna. I hate the fact I'm gonna be agreeing with Luke Radowski because I've been mocking him. When I first came, it was a panel and there was like 3 people, and I was like, "Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you." I don't remember who. Maybe it was George the Giant Slayer. I don't remember where it was, but I was ranking on Luke. I was like, "Oh yeah," and I said, "We have all these fine talents here, and Luke Radowski," and I was just sort of like ripping on him the entire time. I don't think he's particularly insightful, but he does have a following. So And I happen to agree with him on this particular issue. So let's go.
It's very important.
Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, how is allowing 600,000 students from the communist country of China putting America first?
Well, the president's point of view is that what would happen if you didn't have those 600,000 students is that you'd empty them from the top. All the students would go up to better schools, and the bottom 15% of universities and colleges would go out of business in America. So
Okay.
his view is he's taking a rational economic view, which is classic Donald Trump, looking at higher education and saying,
But why are you
until
helping
we
Harvard?
modify that.
That just
What's
helps
that?
Harvard and UCLA and UCal Berkeley and I mean you're all helping those schools. Why? They're like, basically factories of anti-American propaganda. And now they're getting a big influx of cash because of the Chinese students. I know President Trump has always been very pro-Chinese student. I just don't understand it for the life of me. Those are 600,000 spots that American kids won't get.
Yeah. Yeah. And if the schools fail, as Drago would say, if they die, they die. That's it. It's really that simple.
This next clip is DeSantis talking about it.
All right, go for it.
There is a significant percentage of the Chinese students who are they're engaged with the CCP. You know, it used to be, Laura, they would say, oh, you bring the people from China, they're going to love America, they'll go back and they'll be ambassadors and China will change. But obviously that has not happened because this has been going on for decades. So, yeah, I think it's first of all, the fact that we have 300,000 now is way out of bounds of, I think, what most people would want to see. I'd rather those slots go to American students.
I'd rather have none. How's that? I'd rather have none. I think the whole thing is a bailout to colleges.
There is a significant percentage of the Chinese.
She's right. I'm glad she's voicing it because she's someone who will more quickly catch Trump's attention. And Ron DeSantis, these are folks who are more likely to catch Trump's attention as to what a crappy idea this is, than you, me, than you or me. And we still should keep screaming about it, but yeah, this is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Let the colleges die. I'm much more in favor of getting rid of all foreign students. Let's get rid of all immigration. We'll put a moratorium on that. This is like what Eclectic Deb is saying here. I agree with this 100%. It's not 1900. We don't need any immigrants at this time. Moratorium on all immigration is what we need, and visas. Oh, and let the colleges fail. Everything Deb says here, over and over again. Grew up north of New York City. Friends who went to BOSES instead of college in 83 became millionaires, could afford own houses. Others had 2.5-hour commutes. What are BOSES? Do you know what he means by that?
No.
Now I'm very curious. I need to know what BOSES is an acronym for. BOSES. What's BOSES? Board of Cooperative Educational Services, public organization in New York State that provides shared educational programs and services to member school districts. Vocational training, that's what it is. I keep screaming about vocational training. To me, that is actual beneficial learning. Vocational training, Spuds is correct, and he's likely heard, he's been here long enough, he's likely heard me say this. You know, the prestige of being some sort of professional is so overhyped and stupid, and it's an infantile insecurity that people have, that they need to have that sort of validation, the fear of, a hope that they're going to be recognized by their peers, rather than the nobility and actual benefit to societies that are provided by skilled blue-collar laborers. I'm not talking, look, there's certain types of labor which are more skilled than others. I had a friend who was a bricklayer, and there's a skill to bricklaying. There's definite skill to that. Whether it's in construction, whether it's in carpentry, whether it's in plumbing, it can be mechanics, it can be in electrician. So many of these different available industries where there's a constant need. It's a transferable skill that you can use in any state, in any country on the planet, virtually. Any country you're thinking about moving to, certainly, or may ever be thinking about, may ever will likely be thinking about moving to. I mean, assuming you're not going to be living with the apes. And I mean, literally, I was thinking of Sigourney Weaver in that movie. But if you're going to need, these skills are going to be needed, and there's a desperate need for people who have competence and integrity in the way they deal with their customers. And you can make a killing owning your own business if you're actually competent and have integrity. That's all, and so much better than so much faster, so much cheaper. You start making money sooner. You have much lower educational debt. It's infinitely better. I urge everyone, find a trade that you think that you could be good at and that you might enjoy somewhat. And I'm telling you now, you're going to have a much more financially rewarding life. The chances, statistically, not everyone, not every person, some people have other character failings which make it difficult for them to succeed. We all have various character failings. But the point that I'm making is you are statistically infinitely more likely, in my opinion, to have a successful career if you actually say, you know what, I'm going to learn a skill that people need, and I'm going to provide that to them. And it's a rewarding career path also, because you can actually build something, do a service, you fix a car, you get it done, and it's like you feel like I did that, which is so much more rewarding than being part of a 50-member team of people who are writing a prospectus. I mean, a business prospectus. You're just like, no one knows what I did. You feel like an insignificance to like what your actual accomplishment is. And it's so limited and boxed into where your skills are able to be marketable. So yes, I agree with him 100% on that. It's not about the schools per se, but the rare earths. China has us by the balls. All our tech dies without them. That's a potential issue. I can't deny that. And it's an issue which my question is how we know this to be the case. This is what I'm going to be. This is what I think they would tell us. I don't know how we know this to be the case. That we have this particular shortage of mineral, XYZ that few people other than chemists know what it is. That is particularly necessary for various industries. I guess it's possible, but so what does that mean? We're basically be blackmailed by them forever? I mean, that's not an answer. That's a very short-term thinking. Anyway, let's move onward because we're already an hour 12 in, and two of our main topics we haven't even gotten to yet.
1 second, pull this up. I just wanted to show there's a couple clips, then I'll get to the next story. It's just basically Boston Herald says Trump saying 600,000 Chinese students could come to the U.S. draws MAGA backlash, and then the Hill says the same thing. Basically, MAGA backlash for saying he'll let Chinese students come in. So yeah. Basically, the news, there is MAGA back. It's actually, the media is actually being honest, I think, in a way about this. And, do you want to go to the H-1B system now? And
yeah, let's move on. I got on the job training at a natural gas technician, just retired with a pension on Social Security after 22 years service, ICE, and 0 student debt. The utility sent me to schools and on the job. Yeah, much better than going to college. Much better. Much better. Good for you. Good for you. Let me just do a quick check over here, make sure. Hand says closing some universities sounds good to me. They're a waste for most that go. Solve student loans issue as well. Supply versus demand would flip cause and pricing to reduce again. True. Yeah. All right. Let's move onward.
Okay. Want me to read this?
Yeah.
The current H-1B visa system is a scam that lets foreign workers fill American job opportunities. Hiring American workers should be the priority of all great American businesses. Now it is time to hire American.
What does that mean, hire American, when he's saying bring in 600,000 Chinese students?
Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Why is it doing this?
I'm involved in changing the H-1B program, right? We're going to change that
that's a
program
scam.
because that's
Yeah.
terrible, right? We're going to change the green card. You know, we give green cards. The average American makes $75,000 a year, and the average green card recipient, $66,000. So we're taking the bottom quartile. Like, why are we doing that? That's why Donald Trump is going to change it. That's the gold card that's coming. And that's we're going to start picking the best people to come into this country. It's time for that to change. I'm involved in changing the H-1B program, right? We're going to change that
that's a
program
scam.
because
What is
that's
going on?
terrible, right? We're going to change
I
the
don't know. You good there?
I got it. Okay. And then it's basically hold on. Go ahead.
I want to wrap up this.
Okay, it's gonna be real quick.
This
You know,
topic.
how are we caught tons of companies red-handed discriminating against American citizens in favor of H-1B workers? It's time for you to end the replacement of American workers. Words are not enough. Act now to end the permanent and H-1B. Yeah.
All right.
Basically that, and then we can jump to the next story, which is Secretary Duffy announces enforcement actions against California, New Mexico, and Washington for failing to comply with the Trump administration's English language proficiency standards for commercial truck drivers. And I was going to say, this is not correct because that's not really Trump administration standards. That's the standards that's been in place for years. You're
Right.
supposed to have to be able to read and speak English to get a CDL.
Yes, you're supposed to. That's what you would think. We covered how they're, in case some people might have missed that episode, but I covered here and touched on relatively briefly how the CDL's reference to commercial driver's licenses, and that there was a terrible accident causing the death of 3 people when there was a driver who never should have been anywhere near our roads, doesn't speak English, only was able to identify 1 out of 4 road signs. I mean, it was just insane that this guy's driving. He was driving a tractor trailer and jackknifed, and basically, was a car crashed into the side of it, and he was like, "Oh, whoops!" And yeah, it's just asinine, and that has touched off this outrage about the fact that these drivers from California, New Mexico, and Washington are getting commercial driver's licenses that puts them in positions where they're traveling interstate, and the headache that they're having is now basically just running cross country, carrying massive loads of
I didn't
whatever.
pull it up either. I didn't pull it up. I should have probably pulled it up because New Hampshire just passed a law, and it was just signed by Governor Ayotte, that illegal aliens that have out-of-state driver's license are not valid to drive in New Hampshire now.
Oh,
CDLs, that is. And supposedly there's another state that did the same thing. I don't know if it was Florida, but there's
New
2 states now.
Hampshire did that?
New Hampshire did it. Yeah.
I wouldn't think New Hampshire would be doing that. They're not the first. They're not the first state. Now, frankly, where they're situated is less impactful, perhaps, than Middle America states, or like New York. Like, if you can't drive through New York State, it's impossible to get to Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. You can't get to any of these states because geographically, New York just cuts them all off. You got, some other states, let's say, Texas obviously would be a very impactful thing if they passed a similar statute to that. I like the conceptual what New Hampshire is doing. I just think that they're in a poor position to actually be very impactful about drivers on the West Coast. I mean, how often drivers on the West Coast going to have to drive through New Hampshire? I guess to get to Vermont or Maine, maybe, but. You want to play that for us?
Yeah, we can play this.
We are not going to tolerate states that don't comply with the rules that come from this department. And so we are going to, we've identified several states that have not been in compliance. That would be Washington, California, and New Mexico. Those are the three states that have not complied with this rule, which, by the way, this driver in Florida had received a CDL in Washington, California, and was pulled over in July for speeding, and no doubt couldn't speak the English language. And law enforcement in New Mexico did not take his rig out of service. So this one driver touched all 3 states. Based on our review, they are not complying with our rule. And so phase one for us, which I'm announcing today, is we are going to give these states 30 days to come into compliance with truck drivers speaking proficiently the English language, or we're going to look at federal funding that they receive under the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program. So I believe California is 20 million or 30 million? 30 million. Washington is 10 million, and New Mexico is 7 million. Jesse will confirm that in a second. But
nice.
These
That's a lot
are
of money.
millions of dollars. By the way, this is phase one. There are other actions that we can take to make sure states comply. And hopefully in the next 30 days, we won't have to withhold any money from them. But if they don't come into compliance, we will start with withholding this money, and then we will take additional steps to guarantee compliance.
And this is all part of the reason why these states are doing it. Is it's all part of their attempts to try and normalize illegal aliens and make them, just like any other American. That's why they give these licenses. They're like, oh, let's help them get jobs and work in commercial transportation. So that's why they grant them these licenses, ignore the standard protocols for obtaining a commercial driver's license that would apply to any American, and are looking for ways to try and just bring them into the melting pot of America and damn whatever impacts it has on Americans. And that's part of their whole woke agenda, is to try to, integrate them as expeditiously as possible. And the detriments to Americans are completely disregarded as being wholly not their concern at all. Not their concern at all. And what I like about what they're doing here with respect to withholding funding, unless these states become compliant, what I think is very good about that is the financial stick is something that Supreme Court, while I disagree with
we
them,
are not going to tolerate.
I disagree with them having the right to just bring people in and to allow the federal government to control state government with the power of the purse. That always bothered me, and and the first I've given this example in the past as to how effective this can be, though, specifically when it comes to roads. You ever hear me tell this story over, Jim, that I heard when I was taking my Barbary course?
You became a Barbary pilot?
No. Barbary is spelled BAR/BRI. Was certainly in the late 90s was far and away the most popular study course for law students who were going to be taking the bar. It's a bar review course,
and it was a joke.
Yeah, and it was. I was trying to bail you out there by just pretending it wasn't. So the way they structure it, and it's such a racket, is that you basically sit in a room and they play videos for you covering the major topics that come up on the bar exam, and they basically give you background so that you're ready to take the exam. I remember that there was one lecture I heard where they were where this professor was telling a story over that he was saying how Congress, which controls the purse, is able to use that purse string in order to effectuate changes in state government. It probably was constitutional law. And he said that in the 1970s or so, or 80s, that the federal government, I think it was probably the 1980s when MAD was very popular and became a big thing, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. So they basically were very bothered by the idea that there was a lot of drunk driving incidents that were happening across the country. And this launched MAD into becoming something that was a national conversation. And there was a massive push to raise minimum drinking age from 18 to 21. And the problem is that if you're looking at it from a federal perspective, how does the federal government have any say about what the minimum drinking age in a particular state is? That's like the most localized thing imaginable. Like, what age is minimum age for drinking? Didn't that get pushed back on, though, and they weren't able to do it? They were able to do it for the speed limit, but I thought with the drinking age that there was a couple states that they did. they weren't able to do it. So because it's, you know, the powers of the federal Congress are only for interstate matters, and how old someone is when they're sitting drinking in their or buying a drink in a bar is the furthest, seems like the furthest thing imaginable from being interstate commerce. So they basically said, okay, you states don't have to raise the minimum drinking age from 18 to 21, but we're going to cut your federal funding for your highway and road maintenance that we're giving each state unless and until you raise it. And within a span of like a month or two, 49 out of 50 states were like, all right, minimum drinking age is now 21. And across the country, many states had it as being 18, but they were like, yeah, we're not fighting this. I think in New York, it went from 18 to 21 at that point in time. I have a vague recollection of that.
I know for the longest time, Wisconsin was 18 if you were a Wisconsin resident, or 19. And then if you were from out of state, it was higher.
You know which state said no? I said 49 out of 50. You know which state said no on changing it right away?
New Jersey?
No. It was actually, if you think for a moment, what's the most logical state that they would be like, we want our 18-year-olds to be able to buy alcohol here?
I don't know.
Louisiana.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo. They want college kids coming down for Cinco de Mayo, and they want them to be able to.
Cinco de Mayo. What's Mardi Gras?
Mardi Gras. Sorry, excuse me. I always say Cinco de Mayo, but you're right. Mardi Gras. They want them to come down for Mardi Gras and party there and get drunk and basically spend a lot of money. So, you basically, and the way this lecturer said it is, so Louisiana basically had the worst roads in the country, and a lot of drunk underage kids, a lot of drunk 19-year-olds trying to navigate those treacherous roads, until eventually even Louisiana gave in and said they're going to raise the minimum drinking age. But the point to this story is that federal government, and in this case it's the executive branch of the federal government, has the ability to withhold funding for the purposes of trying to push their agendas into a local state issue. Issuance of a driver's license is for the most part a local state issue. Yeah, I mean, I could see Trump trying to make the claim that when you're talking about commercial driving, that is inherently going to be an interstate thing.
Am I remembering it wrong though? Didn't they get pushed back? Like the Supreme Court or someone said you can't withhold the funding for changing the drinking age because it doesn't have anything to do with the highway funds, but they were able to give them like extra. The way they did it was they said, okay, we'll give you extra money if you do this.
I think that actually rings a bell.
Because
I appreciate you issuing that correction.
I know with the speed limit, to lower the speed limit to 55, they were able to do it. And basically, like, if you don't lower the speed limit to 55, you're not, you know what I mean? You're done. You're not getting any federal highway funds.
Right.
Because it's highway speed limit, and they were able to do that. But
right.
I for some reason, I remember that it was, they tried to do it, they got pushed back.
Now that you said that, it actually rings a bell.
No, because I don't know which happened first, though. Which was it? Was it the highway first? Was it the speed limits first, or was it the drinking age first?
I don't know.
Were they right around the same time?
You got a 50-50 shot if you just guess and pretend that's definitely true. So, yeah. Anyhow, so now we're seeing that happening here with this commercial driver's license, and I think it's a very smart move on their part. Like, they'll be like, "Hey, look, you want access to this? You can't."
Now, isn't there
ignoring? And here's the reason why they could get away with it, even if there is a problem with what you brought up, because there's already a law on the books which says, there are minimum standards there for issuance of commercial driver's license. So in that sense, if they're failing to comply with those laws, failing to adhere to it, and basically ignoring them, they can say you're already in breach for ignoring it, and that's why we're able to punish you rather than fail to give them a carrot, but to actually hit them with a stick. Because what you're describing there is you're saying, well, in certain circumstances, you can't hit them with a stick by taking away money, but you can offer carrots to everyone else and say, no carrot for you until you go along with what we want. But over here, they're not offering a carrot; they're threatening a stick. And what I'm saying is that it's even if you can't always threaten a stick, I would think in this circumstance, because of those pre-established requirements that they're failing to adhere to, that would give a basis to actually say that there's legal justification for coming in with the stick and not simply giving
Yeah,
out more
Spuds is
carrots.
saying the seatbelt law determined highway funding. They used this highway funding to get through a bunch of stuff they wanted to get through. Anything tangentially related to driving that they wanted done, they were able to do through highway funding.
Yeah.
They just kept doing it year after year. Congress would say, "Oh well, if you don't do what we want you to do, states, we're gonna withhold the highway funding."
Yeah, and the reason for that is because whenever there's a statute which is, they're trying to push something, that you always have to have, it has to pass a rational relation test. So you can try and make a reasonable, and that's a very low threshold, but it is some threshold. You have to have some explanation. So if they said something like, well, if you don't take care of your speed limit, then we're going to start cutting how much money we give you for food for your educational training. And we're like, why would one have to do with the other? That doesn't make any sense. So that's why when it comes to highway stuff, the first place they're going to go is where the federal government is doling out money, and that's for building and repairing roads. So
see, because wasn't Trump able to withhold some funding for police departments for them not cooperating with immigration, like grants? They were able to pull grants back.
Again, that would be compliant. That you could see how that would work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see on a rational relation test how there's a connection there between the conduct complained of and the funding element that's being withheld from them.
And that was in the first Trump administration, if I remember correctly. They did that. They tried, but it was only so much they could do because most of the funding was through other block grants that didn't have, and it was like, you can't. And they said you can't really take this money away because it's not for policing. It's not.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. Let's move along to the next thing.
Well, there's like real quick. There's like two things real quick that just on this, and I'll get through it real fast. I promise. So, states ignoring federal safety standards put lives at risk. This isn't about language. It's about accountability. California's failure to enforce the ELP rules after 34,000 inspections with only one driver pulled proves systemic negligence.
That is astonishing. 34,000 inspections, only one person fails.
Yeah, and then we got this as truck driver caught. This happened just today. Truck driver caught driving the wrong side of the Interstate 55 across the Mississippi River Bridge. The name on the truck says Raj Transport.
Oh my God. Yeah, you wonder if they can't read the language. It's not surprising, right? I mean, yeah.
We don't. I mean, there's some. Basically, then there's other stuff. I'm not going to go through. It's just the articles basically saying what we've said.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about it. And,
so just ditch them. Let's just move on.
Yeah. Basically, the Trump administration plans to cut millions in federal funding from 3 states. And then for whatever reason, the original thing for this the original tweet got pulled down about RFK. I don't know what happened, why the tweet it's no longer available, but basically the tweet was explaining that RFK sent letters to 46 states who have gender ideology content in their sex education classes, and because of HHS, Health and Human Services, is in charge of sex education for whatever reason, not the education department. I don't know why. So he has the ability to threaten to pull money if they don't comply with what he wants them to do.
So the administration is throwing federal sex education funding in 46 states. Yeah, let's hear more about this. I want to hear what the threat is. Like, what is it? The nature of the failing by those 46 states. You want to read?
Oh, you can read if you want. Go ahead.
I'll go for it.
The Trump administration is threatening to strip millions in federal grant funding from dozens of states with sex education programs that include information about transgender people. Now, this is a left-wing paper, so they're not really, the way they're wording it is information about transgender people. Right. No, I mean, so you got to read between the lines a little here.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families said Tuesday it is putting 46 states, U.S. territories, and Washington, D.C. on notice to remove within 60 days all references to gender ideology from their personal responsibility education programs, PrEP, and teen pregnancy prevention and sexual health initiative created by the Affordable Care Act. Together, the states and territories stand to lose more than $81 million in federal grant funding.
Beautiful. There's a clip there?
No, that's Trump. They always do this too. These clips have absolutely nothing to do with the story, and it pisses me off because they get me almost every time. I just have to pass them over. But the action reflects the Trump administration's ongoing commitment to protecting children from attempts to indoctrinate them with delusional ideology.
That's the most accurate thing in this entire article.
Yeah. You know, states that fail to comply may see their prep funding withheld, suspended, or terminated.
Yes. Screw you guys. That's right.
And the acting assistant secretary, Andrew Graves, said that accountability is coming. Federal funds will not be used to poison the minds of the next generation or advance dangerous ideological agendas.
Trumpinator's funny. That's pretty funny. Go on.
I wish I had that clip of that guy. You know, that guy who, where'd you eat the poo-poo? You know what I'm talking about? The why are you gay?
No.
Oh, yeah. Just some of the African clips of the guys talking about the gay sex stuff. It's just so funny. They're not, the way they say stuff is like, oh my God, how are you doing this?
Oh, is that the same guy who's like, why are you gay?
And he's like, eat the poo-poo. The Trump administration will ensure that PrEP reflects the intent of Congress, not the priorities of the left.
Nice.
The warnings to the states and territories comes roughly a week after HHS terminated California's PrEP grant over the state's refusal to remove gender ideology content from its program materials. So they already revoked California's. Terminated, huh? The department said the information exceeds the scope of PrEP's authorizing statute and is not supported by the way to science.
Oh, it's very supported by the way to science. Wait, hold on, go up.
California Department of Public Health, responding to its grant termination, said its PrEP curriculum is medically accurate, comprehensive, and age appropriate, and was previously approved by the ACF and found to be compliant with the federal statute. Well, that was the Biden administration. People looked at it and said, you know, when they had the people at the White House, they were dancing around, showing their tits and doing all this stuff. They said, this is great.
It's like if you ask a crackpot like what's normal, you're not going to get a normal answer. They're just that's what it is. It's you're picking a source that you know is a lunatic, so they're going to give you the lunacy perspective as being that's what normal is. So yeah, gosh,
I read this and this paragraph bothers me. All right, and I'll explain why. It says California PrEP curriculum is aligned with federal statute requiring the curriculum to address, among other topics, adolescent development, such as the development of healthy attitudes and values about adolescent growth and development, body image, racial and ethnic diversity, and other related subjects. So they're basically saying we're going to brainwash people to be like DEI, you know, for DEI and racial grievance. That's what that says.
It's worse than that. It's worse than that. They're like, we've already normalized trans so much that this is what's considered healthy. This is the backward, retarded perspective. Let me tell you something. I don't feel these are the people who are making me angry. These are the people. These are the ones right here. Because ultimately, it's not the trans person themselves. They're already screwed, but they're screwed by the people who came before them, and the people who came before them, who were basically told that this is a healthy approach to deal with whatever psychological issues that you're having. This has been a system of enabling psychosis, self-destructive psychosis that doesn't make them happier people ultimately, and it's a way of basically perpetuating that instead of having those who are affected and have been afflicted in the past with this completely twisted perspectives about how their genders can change every 30 seconds and how if they just would cut off one part of their body and slap on a fake one of another part of a body, that all of a sudden they're going to have happy, rewarding, and enriching lives, which statistically is simply not true. And so we're Frankensteining these children, and the idea that we're supposed to be teaching children, and when I say children, I'm sorry if you're like some 14-year-old, 16-year-old, and you think you're not a kid anymore, you are, okay? You don't have any sort of perspectives as to what you are going to have when you are 25, much less 35. And hopefully, God willing, you will attain those ages. And you're going to be stuck living with the results of whatever has been infecting your mind for the last 7, 8 years of your life, which I know to you likely seems like it's eons, but one day you're going to realize that it's actually a relatively short period of your life. But that relatively short period of life is being used to destroy the next the last 7, 8 years of your life are being used to destroy the next 7, 8 decades of your life, where you're going to be stuck in this twisted, tormented, ridiculous anguish, thinking, oh, if only people will accept me, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be you are a non-star-bellied sneetch. Okay, you understand? You're a non-star-bellied sneetch, and you're looking at the people with the stars in their belly, and you're saying to yourself, "Oh my God, my life would be so much more rewarding if I just had that star on my belly." But you don't realize that when you go in the star on, and the star off, and all that other stuff, and this is the greatest book that Dr. Seuss ever wrote, and talking about the envy that people have. You're sitting there saying, "I'm not popular enough. I don't fit in the way I want to." All you're doing, you have the same mental anguish that every teen has had for the last century, at least, if not for several millennia, as far as when their body is metamorphosizing from being a tiny little human into being a fully grown human. It's a sucky and painful process, but it is the process that we all have to go through and struggle with, and that includes zits, it includes growing hair in places you're not used to having hair, and other bodily functions that you don't have accurate control over in ways that can be humiliating and frustrating. I get it. I understand. It's a difficult period of your life, but what's happening is that the adults in the room, in whatever room you happen to be in, have been lying to you. They've been lying to you and say, if you just drastically change this essential part of who you are as a person and start embracing, because you're thinking to yourself, maybe I'm like this, maybe I'm like that. And if you start to embrace that, oh, you're going to get added love now. They incentivize kids to Frankenstein themselves, all in the name of science and better health and psychological and emotional development, when all it's doing is crippling them for the rest of their lives. It is a way of torturing kids in a way that is evil and is designed to be evil. It's a financial thing. They're actually making fabulous money by doing this. They're becoming, it's a self-rewarding thing, and that they feel like, oh, I'm so virtuous because I care. If their kid came to you and said that they think they're a pirate and you slice their leg off and give them a peg leg, everyone would recognize you as being a monster. But if your kid tells you that he doesn't think he should have a pee-pee and you say, oh, let's slice that off, everyone's like, oh, you're so heroic and brave, stunning and brave. It is horrifying. It is evil. It is the most twisted thing imaginable. And I feel such pity and compassion for these poor kids who are surrounded by the people who are the quote unquote adults in the room, most of whom are just trying to show their own virtue signaling as to how woke and evolved and understanding they are, when they're just a bunch of friggin' lunatics. And it makes me so aggravated. And then they sit there saying, the science, completely ignoring the science, which says that you're designating this kid for a lifetime of suckiness and self-hate and misery. And that's all you're doing to these kids. And it's so freaking aggravating that they sit there on some stupid soapbox podium of like, oh, we're the good people here, when they're the actual monsters. You might as well put them up there with Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Kevorkian, Dr. Fauci, and every other evil
Mengele.
person. Dr. Mengele as well, because this is in certain ways every bit as terrible as the scientific experiments that Dr. Mengele was so infamous for, because you're doing this to children. You should know better, and you're sitting there pretending that you're so evolved, and the ramifications, which studies in Europe are already showing how terribly twisted the studies advocating for this kind of nonsense always were, that anyone who has a thinking brain would have recognized. No way an actual study proves that this is a way in bettering this person's lives. And they're starting to recognize that it's criminally evil thing to do to children in Europe. And yet these American scientists are like, oh no, we know best. We know best. Go to hell. In fact, I know you will go to hell. You're a terrible, terrible, terrible human being. You suck at being humans, because what you're doing is you're supposed to be there protecting these kids and actually helping them advance and go through that difficult puberty process, even if it comes emotionally or psychologically difficult, and actually help guide them through it. And instead, you're basically destroying their lives forever. So go to hell, drop dead. Sorry.
I saw a great comment in the chat. I'm just going to read it because it explains everything. It says, how in the hell does teaching kids to hate the body they were born in equate to positive body image. That's from Michael Stetson, and that's perfectly sums it up. It's you're not teaching somebody positive body image if you're telling them they're in the wrong body.
It's aggravating. Stand there on a high horse.
Well, we're almost done with that. Got one thing real quick, and then I want to jump to the next one. Let's just right here. I want to show you. This is Axios, and this is their headline: HHS threatens states sex education funding over gender ideology. So it's not as bad as the Hill, which said over talking about trans people or whatever. So, and then and then we're on to the favorite story of Joe's.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on 1 second. I just want to pull up in case there was one or two that came in here. New one today: wrong way trucker on bridge arrested at gunpoint in your DM.
I think that's the thing I showed you. She might have sent that to you before I pulled it up.
Let me. That is possible. We're past that at this point anyway. In my opinion, I think these activists want to accomplish what Mao wanted: a gender-neutral society. 100%. 100%. Yeah. A terrible.
Holy shit! I think I labeled my stream wrong. Someone just said Thursday's news, Tuesday, the power of Jim. I think because I have a pre set up things that are, and it was Thursday, so I bet you I gotta go look. I bet you friggin' says Thursday night. Let him. I gotta fix that.
Are we gonna get to Jack Smith?
It's right now. This is Jack Smith right here.
All right,
ready?
let's do it.
You want to read it or you want me to read it?
New York Times obtained a letter from Jack Smith's attorneys insisting he did not violate the Hatch Act by bringing two unprecedented criminal indictments against President Trump a little over a year before the 2024 election. You got to move with me.
Okay.
Note how the lawyers have to quote Judge Chutkan, LOL. I actually saved these. I saved this. I'm going to pull up here. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up on my end. I think it'll probably work better that way. Okay, make you a little bigger. Jack Smith is afraid. This is what you're seeing here in this letter. He is very, very, very afraid. Should we cover how there's an investigation going into him, or there's a reference to it in here?
There's some references in there, I think.
Yeah. All right. So this is the letter that was obtained from Covington, which is a massive. Covington & Burling is a massive firm. They are a very big firm. Someone here is financing this for Jack Smith because I don't think he's paying for this himself. Dear Mr. Greer, we represent Jack Smith and write in response to recent press reports indicating that your office has opened an investigation regarding Mr. Smith's compliance with the Hatch Act during his tenure as special counsel. Now, you might be unfamiliar with what the Hatch Act is. You're saying, I heard of the Hatch Act. I'm not sure I know exactly what it is. Well, the Hatch Act essentially is prohibition against it's a prohibition against using government services in a way that are designed to be politically partisan. So the it's under 5 USC 7321 to 7326, and it basically says you can't try and use the government to promote a particular political side. And the logic behind opening investigation into Jack Smith is, given the timing and the nature of the charges that he brought against Trump, both in DC and in Florida, are indicative that this was an objective of trying to kibosh Trump's political career. You typing something there, brother?
I am. Sorry,
it's important. If it's important, then if you're saving someone's life by doing that, I want you to continue.
I'll type quieter.
That was so passive aggressive. All right. So, although you have not reached out to us to discuss these allegations, we welcome the opportunity to engage with your office and are confident that as you become familiar with the facts and the record, you will conclude that there is no basis to find a violation of the Hatch Act and that these allegations are wholly without merit. Mr. Smith's I'm not so sure about that. Mr. Smith's actions as special counsel, he never was special counsel. He never was properly appointed. We're consistent with the decisions of a prosecutor who has devoted his career to following the facts and the law without fear or favor and without regard for the political consequences, not because of them. Well, that's a pretty gaudy statement. I understand why Covington has to take this position, but I don't think anyone here thinks that there was without fear or favor or regard for the political consequences. I think he was looking for political reward here. We understand from press reports that your office launched this investigation in response to a letter from Senator Cotton dated July 30th, 2025, alleging that Mr. Smith's conduct as special counsel had no legitimate purpose and seemed to have no rationale except for an attempt to affect the 2024 election results. A review of the record and procedural history demonstrates the opposite. Mr. Smith was fiercely committed to making prosecutorial decisions based solely on the evidence. He steadfastly followed applicable Department of Justice guidelines, and principles of federal prosecution. That's not true. This is a guy who was jumping past various court levels because he wanted it expeditiously done. He kept insisting that things be done quickly before the election. Why does it have to be done quickly before the election if it's not about the election? Why do they have to have results here if it's not about the election? That doesn't make any sense. And he did not let the pending election influence his investigative or prosecutorial decision-making. Quite the contrary, there are countless examples of where he was pushing and pushing to have this thing move forward so it would be completed before the election. Accordingly, and this is after he waited. He could have brought these charges against Trump years earlier, but he brought them specifically when we were coming into an election cycle. So no, this is crap, and it's obviously it's transparently crap. It's like taking a pile of dog feces, and instead of wrapping it in newspaper, you're just putting it in a Ziploc bag so that everyone can just see the big logs there that came out of the dog. And it's just sitting there, and you're like, that don't stink. And they Ziploc the bag, so it's like someone who doesn't know better doesn't smell it, but you still see the dog logs there. You're like, dude,
You see the dog, Joe?
yes, you still see the logs. It's almost and you can see
just laying there like a log. That dog.
The bag just steaming. Because it's just such a steep, it's such, and you look at this and you're like, are you really trying to say this with a straight face? But I guess they are. The predicate for this investigation is imaginary and unfounded. Yeah. Mr. Smith followed well-established legal principles in conducting the investigations into President Trump, and the courts presiding over the resulting prosecutions have already rejected the spurious allegations that the manner in which Mr. Smith prosecuted cases were somehow improper. Really? Why was the case in Florida thrown out? Why was it thrown out? Oh, because Judge Cannon said he's not actually a prosecutor. Yeah, you have problems. You got problems with making this claim here. You're going to struggle with not at all improper. No. Notably, Senator Cotton does not allege that the criminal charges against President Trump were politically motivated. He doesn't have to. Everyone understood that. Or that the indictments were without merit. Everyone understood that too. He doesn't have to make that point. It's like notably, Mr. Cotton never bothered to inform you that his first name is actually Thomas, not Tom. So Instead, his allegations focus on the mechanical steps required to prosecute a case. For instance, in support of his assertions, Senator Cotton cites such unremarkable examples as Mr. Smith seeking special permission to exceed the normal maximum page limit, asking for a trial date 5 months after the indictment, which was insane. Insane. That is part of what's insane. And when you consider how complex those cases were, and he's asking for like an expedited time basis, and then moving for an expedited review by the appeals court, these routine actions are consistent with and expected of a prosecutor who is prosecuting a case, and they were subject to court approval. So just because Judge Chutkan went along with it, that means that he wasn't motivated by politics? That's not true. I agree that would probably help. It probably helps their points. We are aware of no court decision prior to Office of Special Counsel finding or other authority interpreting the Hatch Act to prohibit prosecutors from investigating allegations of criminal conduct committed by former public officials or candidates for public office, or prosecuting these cases when the facts and laws so dictate. Yeah, because something like this never was done by anyone before. Jack Smith is the first a-hole to actually do this. You're talking about, you want to compare it to like you think a federal prosecutor is going to be doing this to go after some member of the state legislature or even some federal senator? You think they're going to bother with that? No. Here's where the stakes are really big. So just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean that he wasn't breaching into an area, an arena that anyone who was actually acting in good faith interest of justice would have recognized was insanely partisan. But you can pretend that it's not. I know you need to pretend. So go ahead, Covington. Pretend. Application of such an unprecedented interpretation of the statute risks interfering with the DOJ's ability to investigate and prosecute public officials or candidates for public office. Yeah, your guy's not part of the DOJ. Here's your problem. He's not part of the DOJ. He's not a special prosecutor. So what the hell is he?
He's not a real boy.
He's not a real boy. That's what Judge Cannon said. He's not a real boy. Oh, no. Such an interpretation also cannot be squared with the numerous historical cases that the Justice Department... You see, you know what? They're sending this letter. It's a sign of fear. This is a sign of fear. They're trying to marshal the troops together. I'll explain more about this in a moment. Such an interpretation also cannot be squared with the numerous historical cases that the Justice Department has successfully brought before against public officials for wrongdoing. But that is precisely the risk presented by this investigation, as it suggests that the Office of Special Counsel can dictate the length of Justice Department briefs, the speed with which cases go to trial, or prosecutors' appellate litigation strategy. He talked about some of the things. It's the timing also. And you try and take these, cherry pick these little things out of context and not explain why it is that the timing of these things was so significant. He didn't simply say, I want 5 months. He specifically targeted the election. That was the key thing he was trying to get in front of. It's not like he said, hey, I want to get this thing done within 6 months. It's like, no, what are we going to do? It's not going to be done before the election. That's what reveals it. If a normal prosecutor, if there was no election, he probably would have tried to have it be done expeditiously. But he wouldn't have been saying it has to be done. It has to be done by this Thanksgiving. It's got to be done by this Thanksgiving. No. He's like, I really want it done as fast as possible. But he looked at that election date as a cutoff deadline, which makes it indicative that this was always about the election. That was the tell. This investigation is premised on a partisan complaint that suggests partisan it was your guys that was the partisan complaint first. That suggests the ordinary operation of criminal justice system should be disrupted by the whims of a political contest. This is totally ordinary. This happens all the time. Never in American history before, but the ordinary operation of the criminal justice system. This is just, didn't you guys realize that this sort of thing happens all the time? All the time. Ordinary operation of the criminal justice system has seen this countless times before. God, this is funny. But the notion that the justice should yield to politics is antithetical to the rule of law. That's what you guys were banking on. That's why you did it. You were yielding to politics. That's what your guys accused of. Moreover, The suggestion that the Hatch Act can be violated by taking routine procedural steps to prosecute a case involving a candidate for public office is unprecedented and risks interfering with the enforcement of our federal criminal laws. No, it doesn't. No, because part of what he has going against him is that he's not a federal prosecutor or a special prosecutor. The court
Was he even a government employee?
I don't know what the hell the dude was.
Because if he wasn't a government employee, he couldn't have violated the Hatch Act.
I think under the color, the Hatch Act is, in other words, if you hold yourself out as being a police officer, right, and then you take certain steps, and
so you think they might be
you're
going
not
after him for deprivation of rights under the color of law? Is that what they're doing with Letitia James? Or
I
mean, it could be.
I wouldn't call it deprivation of rights. I would say that he's under the color of acting for the government. That's he was acting in that way. And it's not like you're going to say that there should be a viable defense that of like, well, I wasn't really supposed to be there in the first place. That's what the defense you're posturing would be, right? It's like, well, I didn't really have any authority to do this in the first place, so you can't charge me under the Hatch Act because Hatch Act requires me to have authority. It's like, no, you acted with purported authority. So, put it back up. I'm gonna bring it.
You had it, not me.
No, I did. That's right. I apologize. Yeah. The court overseeing the prosecution of President Trump and the District of Columbia reaffirmed this bedrock principle that the justice system is not subservient to politics, repeatedly expressing that President Trump's campaign for president has no bearing on the judicial process. The fact that President Trump is running a political campaign currently has to yield to the ordinary administration of justice. Yeah, but they actually expedited it because of it, though. This court, will not factor into my decisions the effect it's going to have on a political campaign for either side. In fact, courts have already considered rejecting the premise of Senator Cotton's allegation that the special counsel's prosecutorial actions and their timing had no rationale except for an attempt to affect the 2024 election results. For instance, one court denied a motion to dismiss that allegation that alleged the prosecution was selective and vindictive, explaining that this case illustrates the hazards of relying solely on the timing of charges, and concluding that the time of this case prosecution is evidence only of restraint and careful pursuit of potential investigative leads. Oh my God. Yes, that's what it must be. That's what it must be. Not vindictive prosecution, especially given the probable cause was found by a grand jury for indictment. All right, you want to hang your head on that? I only saw 2 pages. Was there? Did you? There's obviously.
I didn't see any more. I didn't see any more to the letter.
Right.
I mean, we do have an article talking about it from the Gateway Pundit. If you want to read that.
Yeah. How many? Did you see how many pages it is? How many more pages are there?
It's just like they got excerpts of it in here.
Excerpts. Yeah.
Excerpts. Yeah.
So why do I say that he's very afraid? I say he's very afraid because you have to ask yourself, do you really think if you're Covington that they're going to stop the investigation because you send this stupid letter, which there's so many different ways to poke holes in it? You mean, unless you have your head buried in your ass, which I assume Covington does not. I never assume that my enemies are stupid. And I hope that by failing to do that, I am often disappointed in my expectation that they'll be intelligent. But the notion, I don't think that this was a stupid letter to send, even if its content is laughably silly. And it is.
Now, do you think he got a target letter from them saying that he was under investigation for Hatch Act violations, or is this just they're guessing?
I would assume that Covington is going under what they saw as public reports that he's under investigation.
But it doesn't have to be the Hatch Act. It could be for anything. Conspiracy. He could be part of the grand conspiracy.
100%. But I think I assume the introduction to that letter where they're talking about what Tom Cotton said. They address his comments and the subsequent investigation that started and assume that there's a link there, which is an assumption, but they assume there's a link there, and then they try and basically say how Cotton was off base in what he was saying. Why would you think that that's just going to terminate the investigation? That's not logical. That's not a logical position to take. So, because each side, when there's 2 sides in the story, 2 adversaries in a courtroom, they're going to have their perspective about what the facts and the law are and how they should be approached in conjunction with each other. So they're laying out the defense's position, so to speak, as to like why it is that he should not be charged. But they know that the prosecution here, especially if, as they suspect, the prosecution is motivated by an anti-Jack Smith bias, meaning a Trump administration angry at Jack Smith type of bias. If that's what they assume, which if you're their lawyers, you have to assume that, then you know that the investigator is going to say, you know, I don't care about your stupid legal arguments, and I'm going for it anyway.
You make your legal arguments in court in front of a judge.
Why are you giving it to me? I don't need to hear your stupid arguments. I know how ridiculous they are.
If they can get him indicted in front of a grand jury and indicts him for something.
So why would you give away your defenses here and now? What's the strategy? You have to assume there's a strategy.
I mean, look at the shit they indicted Trump for in Georgia and all this stuff, a fake elect, all this stuff is just insanity. RICO charges. I mean, just insanity.
So I think that they're only concerned about Jack Smith, which is the two cases, the Florida and the DC one, not the New York and Georgia cases. But the perspective that they
supposedly now, Joe, the Jack Smith was in communication with Fannie Willis and with Letitia James, and so it might be part of it too. Maybe they want the communications; they want to know who said what to who. What are they doing?
I would assume that there's some sort of overlap there with respect to that investigation. I would definitely assume that. But my point is, I'm just trying to help analyze why would Covington be sending this letter. Like, what is there? If you don't think it's going to serve the purpose of terminating the investigation, why send it? When you're giving away so much, you're spelling out what your defenses are going to be.
I think they sent it to send a message to some judges that this is what they want the judges to think about and rule on stuff. Or
I think that there's no judge that's assigned at this point in time, so it could maybe.
Well, judge oversees the grand jury, right?
Yeah, but it's the judge, from my understanding, has little impact on what's going to happen in the grand jury. What I would think is that this is twofold. I think there are two primary objectives here. Number one is they're trying to basically say, we're going to be fighting and we're going to be coming after you hard, and we're Covington and we're a big badass law firm, and be prepared for us to come at you and complain, and that you're violating your principles and basically bending the knee to Trump. The second reason, and I think perhaps the more primary objective from Jack Smith's perspective, is this is a way of marshaling the troops. That Jack Smith is under attack, that he's on Trump's enemies list, that he's under attack. Not enough people are talking about the fact that he's potentially in the spotlight, and basically to start portraying Jack Smith, the poor victim, Jack Smith, that he's under attack from that bully Donald Trump, and to try and basically portray that all of this is some sort of witch hunt where Trump is looking to punish his political enemies. And this way, say, look, we even tried walking you through how these, this whole investigation makes no sense, and you ignored our letter, and get some public conversation going about how Trump is trying to bully and harass Jack Smith. That's what to me, that's the most obvious potential upside, that they're sort of marshaling the left into being like, defend Jack Smith, defend the honor of Jack Smith. He was the right man in the right time. And, he got screwed over by that judge in Florida and by the Supreme Court when they got immunity. That's basically what they are. That's what they're trying to ratchet up public support for Jack Smith. And that could help potentially with judges that might be selected on this case to see some of these arguments, I guess.
There is a short thread from Julie Kelly going over all the stuff Jack Smith did that she says is inappropriate.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Former Special Counsel Jack.
You want the other one?
Yeah, that's good. A reminder that Smith took the unusual step of asking the Supreme Court to take up the immunity question before the D.C. Appellate Court decided whether to uphold Chutkan's December 2023 order, denying all forms of immunity for President Trump. SCOTUS rejected Smith's request. Even Smith noted the unusual nature of the case posted below. A 3-judge panel almost immediately upheld Chutkan's historic decision. The case went to oral arguments, meaning they're saying he was going through normal process. He wasn't, because he was that desperate to try and get decisions before the election. SCOTUS then issued its opinion on July 1, 2024, significantly narrowing Smith's indictment and determining a broad swath of immune conduct for a sitting president. The United States recognizes that this is an extraordinary request. This is an extraordinary case. The court should grant certiorari and set a briefing schedule that permit this case to be argued and resolved as promptly as possible. Yeah. Smith also asked for and received from Chutkan a wide-ranging gag order in the J6 case, which didn't make any sense. In addition to the immunity decision, SCOTUS' decision in Fisher, which overturned how the Biden DOJ applied 1512C2 in January 6 cases, would have further watered down Smith's already weakened J6 indictment. The documents case was an absolute mess before Cannon tossed it in July 2024 after determining Smith's appointment violated the Constitution. And the fact that he was so desperate to get in there here's the other thing also about that, and we'll come back to this to Julie Kelly, who's awesome in a moment.
Yeah, her and Margot Cleveland are go-to people for me on this stuff with.
No, they're both great. So what I would tell you is this, and here's what Covington also will have a problem with. Why didn't they go through the normal appointment process? Why not? Why didn't they? Why didn't they go through that? Why didn't they do that? They could have. Get a simple majority in the Senate and appoint him as special prosecutor. Why did they do that? And I think the point is that they wanted less oversight. And they also wanted to do it faster. So they put him in this weird position where he's not properly appointed. And now you're questioning, is he working for Merrick Garland, who's the head of the DOJ? But special prosecutors are not supposed to be working for the DOJ. So what is his role here? What is he doing here? He's supposed to be outside the DOJ. Merrick Garland claiming he's got full carte blanche over here and that he's not overseeing him. And yet Merrick Garland is the one who appointed him.
Didn't he appoint him under a statute that they was ruled unconstitutional, if I'm not mistaken, an independent counsel statute or something, or am I misremembering?
I don't remember that, but I think that the point here is, so he's supposed to be removed from the DOJ, and yet his boss is the head of the DOJ. The one who can hire and fire him is the head of the DOJ. That's not the way any of this is supposed to work. Why are you doing it this way unless you were afraid of the political blowback of trying to get him properly appointed, which only shows that this was a politically in nature endeavor. And that's the problem Covington's got here. That's the problem Jack Smith's got here. That hey, look, you want to sit here pretending that this wasn't purely political, but there's 9 different ways to Sunday that you can show how this was specifically designed to keep Trump from attaining office by having him, be cast out and declared a criminal convict. I mean, this is before the New York convictions came in, and that his objectives were to have him get convicted and thrown in jail before the election. And that's why, and the timing of it was designed to disrupt his ability to campaign and to wear him down. It is a miracle that he had the strength to fight through all these convictions while destroying an opponent in a campaign. Either one of those would wear most 50-year-old people down to a nub. And this is a guy who's, he's 80 years old. And he's fighting multiple litigations, multiple criminal charges, multiple civil penalties, numbers far in excess of anything imaginable, multiple. When I say multiple, you have Letitia James, you got E. Jean Carroll, you got all these different things in addition to 4 different criminal cases while he's trying to win, he's trying to run a campaign. It was a very reasonable expectation that the left had that there's no way a man can do all this. It can't be done. It's miraculous what he did. It really is. So to pretend that this wasn't purely political in nature when everything about the steps taken here, from the timing to the procedure of his appointment, to the procedure with respect to trying to get him trying to jump through various steps in on the immunity question, with the procedure of everything trying to expedite this case, and before the election, all of this seemed to be purposefully designed to try what was possible to make it as difficult as possible for Trump.
I guess the good thing, or you want to call it a good thing, is that none of these people are like experienced criminals. So none of them probably covered their tracks, and they probably communicated digitally and, you know, electronically and said things that are going to come back to bite them in the ass now.
Oh, I think there's a really good chance that there's
You know, just like with Strzok and Page, where we're going to stop them and all that stuff. You're going to see something like that from Jack Smith to Fannie Willis or Letitia James or something.
Oh yeah. Oh,
and it's all going to come crashing down.
I think Jack Smith he's up there of the 5 most likeliest people to face actual criminal punishment.
He would be the one that could probably roll over on everybody else too and get them all.
Possibly, yeah. If he's willing to play ball. He also can, you know, if they bring these charges, they're going to bring him in Florida.
Yeah.
So, because that's where he brought one of the cases, so they can easily.
Well, that's where the grand jury is. That's the guy that the Cajones, the guy they appointed in the Southern District of Florida's new. Well, his name is not Cajones. I'm calling him Cajones because.
Right. Yeah.
So it's something. It's close to Cajones, but anyway.
All right. No, but the point here is that he's got real. If you're Jack Smith, you should be losing. You're not sleeping well at night. I'll tell you right now, and he shouldn't be. And frankly, I hope that. Now, what is the penalty? What do I have here? So the Hatch Act itself doesn't impose criminal penalties, but the Hatch Act itself isn't criminal. Other statutes could apply if someone using federal authority in partisan ways under 18 U.S.C. 595 is a crime for federal employees to use official authority to interfere with or affect an election. Or 18 U.S.C. 610 prohibits coercing political contributions from subordinates. I don't really know how that would really play in.
Is the Hatch Act the one that it's supposed to be like the like what that job that Bellinger had? What was it? Hampton Bellinger, the Office of Special Counsel, whatever. That's
yes, it's supposed to be the Office of Special Counsel.
Yeah, they investigate the Hatch Act violations and they report to the president, or someone's supposed to take action to correct the situation, or
it's usually just a civil fine.
Yeah, or fine, or administratively they fire the person or remove them, or they get something. It's not like jail.
Yeah,
that's why I don't see they wouldn't have a grand jury investigating the Hatch Act. That's why it doesn't make sense to me.
Right. Good. That's a great point. That's a great point. You wouldn't. Excellent point. It is against New York State policy question drivers' legal status and ability to understand state law. Oh, we covered that. This is what we had. They didn't want Biden to nominate him for Senate confirmation. Then he would have been Biden's special counsel. Yeah, we have special counsel all the time, and there are other ways you can have an independent counsel assigned. So, yeah, perhaps that's true. Perhaps that's true. But at the end of the day. At the end of the day, they did not follow normal procedure, and every deviation from normal procedure is another indicator that this was. I mean, remember how that thing was 107 pages long, 107 pages, and with so many allegations. It just went on and on and on. So many details that were thrown into that indictment. I'm talking about the D.C. indictment. It was just insane. It was crazy, and every time these indictments would drop right after there was some bad news for Biden. Like the next day is like, hey, we got a new indictment today. It's like Hunter Biden is they find an 8-ball of coke in the White House, and the next day, Trump's indicted. Every time. So the there's a lot of I think he is sinking in quicksand. I think he has problems. I'm not saying he's going to spend life in jail or anything like that. I'm simply saying I think he's facing serious potential problems here, and that he's certainly front and center for someone who should be sent away, and he's one of the easiest necks to hang because he's so overt. His conduct there was so overt and it's so easy to get this prosecution in a relatively friendly jurisdiction where you can get convictions. You got to go to DC. You're not getting anything. If you bring in Florida, That's open game right there. It's open season.
See, I don't understand why they didn't bring it in D.C. because couldn't they?
Because you don't want to
couldn't bring it in
prosecute
D.C.
him.
because he was president when he left with the documents. He was still president. He left with the documents. He was still president. It wasn't until he arrived in Florida with the documents that he wasn't president anymore. So that's why it was the crime. So I guess they couldn't bring it in D.C.
Yeah. All right. Did we have anything else? Because
there was just some more. There was a little more. They were talking about it. We did have another story if you want to get to it about.
What was the other story we were going to cover?
It's about it's a double story type of thing about the government. They want to start have the Pentagon start buying pieces of companies, and then
we'll say that.
Also,
I'll say that.
And also do like they want to do patents. They want any type of patents that's coming from colleges that are funded by government grants. They want the government to get a piece of the patent instead of the university keeping the patent. I think I'm going to save that. We're going to save that.
All right. Well, that's what we got for you, Jim. Tomorrow is your birthday, right?
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Tomorrow there's going to be a special show on Jim's channel.
Special show.
Tell everyone.
Very special show.
Tell everyone about it. Tell everyone why they should be checking out your show tomorrow.
Tomorrow there's going to be a very special show. It's going to be at 11 o'clock tomorrow night on my show. I hope everybody that watches 11 Eastern time. I hope everyone is going to be. Joe's going to come over after Joe's going to stream. Then he's going to come on over to my show. And I'm supposed to have some other very special guests. I don't really want to. I mean, Bronca said he's going to come on. All right. And a couple other people said they're going to come on. I don't want to mention any names at this point because I don't want anyone to get put out if they don't show up or have a thing. But they said they're going to try to come on. Some big names. Big names. Big names. Like names I can't even pronounce. They're so big.
Right. They happen to rhyme.
They have so many consonants in them that's crazy. And
like one name that happens to rhyme with Katie Mance.
Maybe. He's a strong maybe. We can't use real names. So that's why you have to use like rhyming things. Big names. Now you know why I'm going over there. I'd want to meet anyone whose name rhymes with Katie Mance. Not saying any specific people, but and definitely not like a guarantee that they're going to show. Like they're maybes. So they said they would try.
They try. The effort is going to be there. So anyway, I have a link in my description as to where you can find Jim Tells You.
I stream usually 5 nights a week, sometimes 6 nights a week. I usually go anywhere around 11 o'clock at night. And what I do on my channel is a little different than Joe. I go for 2 hours at least. And then I'll say like if you give me if $50 comes in, I'll go an extra hour, and then for every $50 that comes in, I'll go another hour. And so a couple nights we've gone 8 hours, 9 hours, and it's been fun. And it's all up to if I'm doing good, I guess, and people want more, they'll pay and to get more. And if I'm not doing good, I'll know because I get to go home early.
That's right. Invest in a trucker buddy. Okay, so that's a dated reference. All right. Well, my friends, you know what they say. Lab meat is meant for evil, sick scientists who are Frankensteins, and do not eat the bugs. Just don't do it. Don't. Why would you want to? Why? They're called bugs for a reason. I thank you all for joining me. I'll see you, God willing, tomorrow. First here, I'm going to be here, and then I'm going to be over with Jim, God willing, tomorrow evening. Until then, have a good night, and as always, Godspeed.